Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today, Beyond the Game, Creating a Richer Fan Experience. My name is Riley McClure. I'm our Product Marketing Manager here at From Now On, and I will be your moderator today. So if you have any questions during our presentation, please feel free to put them in the chat, and I can relay those to Stephan as we go, we'll make time for questions at the end as well. Our presenter today is our own Stephan Grot, and he is our Senior User Experience Designer at From Now On. He's got over 13 years experience in the industry, and he is kind of the visionary behind many of our products and features here. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Stephan, and we'll begin our presentation today.
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much, Riley. Appreciate it. One thing that I wanted to make sure everybody knows about, just so that you can see everything that's on the screen, is making sure that there's a little panel over all the way on the right side that says Control Panel. It has a big green header at the top, and there's an arrow that you can click to hide that, and it gives you a significant amount more space, and so you might want to see that just so you can read things a little bit better. So what we're looking at here is the mobile experience. We're going to explore a lot about mobile and the trends. First, we're going to talk a little bit about ourselves, make sure you know who we are. Then we're going to go down and talk about just general mobile trends usage and look at how people are using mobile apps in the sports arena. Then we're going to talk a little bit about mobile digital strategy, what it really means to understand how people are using mobile and then attributing it to the kinds of content that you want to give to people. And then after that, we're going to leave hopefully about 15 minutes for a little bit of Q&A. And if everybody's really interested, we can open it up to broader discussion. We'll kind of give you some other opportunities as to how you can ask more questions or learn more. So jumping in, wanted to give you a little introduction to who we are. So today we're talking about mobile trends and refining mobile strategy. So it's fair to give you a little background on who we are as a company and why we are mobile experts. Our parent company, CRI, began in 1999, and they focused on technical staffing and recruiting and also custom development, and mostly in the mobile realm. We grew through delivering really great experiences for our partners and by helping them create great experiences for their clients, including a lot of the companies that you see here on the screen. We then developed a really great internal team. It was an innovation lab, and an idea came out of that called FanX, and that is one of our first products that we made, and it's a mobile fan engagement experience. And that turned into our current company called From Now On, and that brings, the product has to do with the athletics market, and it helps organizations such as yourself create richer fan experiences. So I grew up through my career writing and designing products and content strategies for print and digital media of all types, so I kind of ran the gamut. And what we're looking at here is just kind of a quick look at the evolution of the digital approach in marketing and how the digital strategy has changed. There used to be a debate between like what the difference was between the mobile web and native apps, and whether or not one was more important than each other. But that's largely moot now, as organizations have discovered that each one plays its own distinct role in the user experience, and print is of course still very important in that. But the evolution of these different medias is something really important to look at. So when you go from print to web, there was a really huge change from something that was static content and a very static experience to to a much more rich experience with dynamic content. There was the ability to share links to anybody so that people all over the world could access your content pretty much from anywhere. And then there came mobile devices and social media. And I believe that the jump there from social media and mobile from web was just as dramatic, going from print to web. And because it really showed what the potential was if everybody everywhere was able to make and digest content no matter what. And so mobile devices allow people to be able to kind of like create their own content for anybody to see. And so it really has shown us just like what a massive amount of information can be created on a daily basis. So one of the reasons a smartphone is called smart is because it can, quote unquote, know the context of who, what, and where people are doing. And it's really the way that apps use a network of technology on a smartphone that gives it that context and makes it smart. I always like to start my conversations about the product that we make by first giving a really quick example of the difference between what a good app is and the more traditional technology that we use, such as websites. So I bet you recognize most of the apps that you see here on this screen. And the rise of mobile technology has really changed the way that we engage with information. And so what we're looking at here is apps that are creating information for our phone, but what you don't probably think of is the fact that apps can take advantage of the information that all of the other apps on your phone are creating. And so a mobile app that you don't see on this screen could take advantage of the calendars and the clocks and the GPS systems and get a context of where and when they are. Then you can take the pictures from your phone, and it can retrieve personal information about yourself and really get a broader picture of who the user is. And so apps can start to kind of get an identity that is associated with you. And then also it can share the overall functionality of the social media. And so all of the content that you are starting to create, apps can take advantage of social media apps like Facebook and Twitter. And I'm sure you guys already know that you can create content yourself and just share it with anybody. That's a really good example of using functionality that isn't in one app and sort of piggybacking on another and being able to kind of take advantage of everything that there is there. So obviously mobile use is growing really drastically, and it's really ubiquitous in the United States especially. And so what we're looking at here is the time that people are using mobile applications versus the mobile browser such as Chrome or Safari. And an interesting difference between the general usage of apps is that people tend to spend much less time of their day on mobile browsers like they do on, say, a desktop computer. A lot of times people are on the internet searching things through mobile browsers. But that's changed through mobile devices because most websites are not really optimized for the internet. And so you're getting kind of a bad experience. And so what they do is they tend to go straight to the app itself. The apps tend to sort of skip the tasks that people are performing on a regular mobile browser, such as searching or trying to like find content for entertainment. And apps really just sort of skip over that whole entire process and perform a very specific function, such as give you YouTube videos or look at your Twitter stream or be able to see sports statistics. So looking at some of those trends themselves, here are the app categories with some of the largest growths between 2014 and 2015. It's interesting to note that the two categories with the largest growths here are news and productivity. And that's an indicator of how people are getting their content and have an increasing reliance on their smartphone as a tool. And it's not really just a source of entertainment. They're tracking their personal data. They're keeping their itinerary and really understanding what their day looks like and digesting information completely through mobile applications. An interesting thing and that is a little bit deceiving here is that the very top category, which is games, is down 1%, and that's relative to the previous year, but really games are still the largest category of app usage. So what does this mean for sports fans? Well, we know that when people are on their phones accessing the internet, that 90% of their device time is spent in apps versus being on their mobile browsers. So this can be attributed to people wanting easier ways to access information, and the idea of the smartphone as a tool is allowing them to find very specific information. Sports apps tend to have the highest user retention rate, which means more teams are getting more loyalty because people are following the season information and events throughout the year. And you see specifically that football apps have increased really dramatically in the last couple of years. So people are really starting to pay attention to more and more information as it's being made available to them. So what about fans who actually attend live events? Sporting event attendees are now using their phone more frequently at the game to talk about the game. So like I said, with that rise of mobile or with social media, people are able to kind of create their own content anytime they want. And so they're not just broadcasting where they are and what they're doing, but how they are experiencing a particular game. And so you see here on the left side that people are using their phone on a very regular basis during games to be able to talk about the event itself. But they're also, on the right side, you see here that half of them are constantly checking scores and team data, and they are checking highlights and being able to kind of learn more about the game so they can have a richer experience. So kind of finishing up with the topic of fan engagement trends, an event in particular that is very interesting and is a very useful benchmark for the latest trends is the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is a unique because it shows the American landscape in a little bit different light. And in fact, it really just kind of shows more global trends. This is attracting interest from a broad spectrum of fans, from the team of diehards who are really following everything having to the game, to the people who are really casually just watching it because they like the sport, all the way down to people who just want to see the commercials. This chart shows fan mobile usage compared to the average usage throughout the game. So what's fascinating here is how fans tend to be very engaged to the game itself at the beginning, trying to catch all of the spectacle and perhaps some of the commercials and things. But after halftime, mobile usage jumps really considerably. As people are engaging with friends and they are talking to their social media groups, they're trying to look up amazing plays, they're trying to find highlights, they're looking at stats from the first half. And as the game draws to a close, we see a slight dip in activity as more eyeballs are going back to the game, but the number still remains pretty considerably high relative to regular usage. And all of this goes to show that even during the biggest game of the year, fans turn to mobile devices to enhance the experience in some way. So here's what some of the tech functionality that's specific to sporting events that people are using in mobile. So people are using the functionality of their mobile apps to follow the action. They're looking at stats and streaming media. And interestingly enough, they're even starting to be able to track things like movement on the court or movement on the field, and even biometrics. There are really amazing things happening in all of the different sports. One in particular is NASCAR is starting to put cameras all over their cars so that you can really be inside the driver's seat and monitor the biometrics of the driver itself and monitor all of the things happening with the cars. And so people are kind of like really aggressively digesting information in that sort of scenario. So you're getting a real increase to access of content, and people are getting a deeper fan experience because of that. Then there's the at-arena functionality. People are using their mobile devices for ticketing. They're ordering food. They're using it as a point of sale system so that they can swipe their card and just buy something right at their seat. And they're also using more rich mapping technology so that you can find something that is the closest to you or what maybe the most available line is. I actually just happened to be down at Disney World today and with my family, and we are looking at a mobile app here that tells you line waits, and we can reschedule different things so that we can get on rides a little bit faster. And so that's analogous to what people want to be able to do at a stadium. They don't want to miss the action, and they don't really want to get up from their seats unless they absolutely have to. And so understanding how quickly they can get away and kind of get done what they need to is really important to people now. So you're facilitating that access. You're facilitating the knowledge people need to experience the game the way that they want to, and then but still kind of get everything that they want. Then there's the fan participation. We're looking at fantasy sports. The betting industry is getting really huge in mobile industries now, and so it's giving you this different angle on being able to track everything that's happening during the game. And there's also social media aggregation and also trivia and polling, which is increasing the visibility of the content itself. You're having more content because everybody is generating content and sharing it with everybody else. And so people are starting to feel more engaged from a social level. It's not just this single direction of communication anymore. So those are some of the trends that we're looking at, and that's useful for you guys to understand the context of really what we're talking about. And so I'm sure some of you guys are thinking about like, okay, well, that's good to understand some of that stuff, but how do I translate it into something that I can use as people who are putting on an event? And so what we want to talk about from here on out is taking that and turning it into a digital strategy for your mobile devices. So we want to talk through the conducting a customer journey, walking in your customer's shoes, performing a content and experience audit, kind of where content comes from and who's digesting it. Then making it personal. It's really important that you're not just feeding content, but you're making it feel like it's timely and people, the content is made for the viewer. And then finally, following that data, what you can learn from having this strategy and what you can do better later. So the first thing to consider on a customer journey is how fans find you. A great start in a digital strategy is knowing how they interact with your brand, from your print to the emails you send out, how they search for you, looking at mobile ads and finding your mobile applications, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's good to invest a little research into this. And if you don't have like an in-house team to do this, you can consider a customer journey company or user experience agency. But here are some general stats as far as how consumers start their own search online. So we're looking at people finding you on search engines, looking at branded websites, and 26% are going straight to a branded app to be able to find information about your company. Now, the bit of research that we're looking at here, the two left side statistics don't really say this, but it's probably pretty sure that most people are using their search engine on their phone. and they're starting on branded websites on their phone. So it's really important to have your content as mobile friendly as possible at all times, even though it may say that they're just looking at websites. It's also an important point to make about a common concern that people have when considering going with a mobile app. They worry that if they go with a mobile solution that people won't know that without making some sort of significant investment into a marketing campaign, telling everybody, hey, we have a mobile app now. But today, mobile applications are becoming the norm. And so it's really common practice for people to seek out a branded mobile application regarding that content. Remember, it was 26% of people were just starting right there to say, hey, do these guys have a mobile app? So a good percentage of people are going to seek you out right from the beginning and understand that you have an app. But it's good just to cover as much ground as possible to make sure that you're mentioning it and displaying indicators everywhere that you already promote your brand, such as on your website or in radio mentions, things like that. The rest of the customer journey looks at the demographics of your fans and what of your points engagement are you concerning yourself with. So fans are coming from disparate backgrounds looking for info about your event in many different places. So people are going to, we've been told that especially for bowl games and different kinds of tournaments, you are going to get a third of your fan base from one particular team. You're going to get another third of your fan base from another particular team, or the mixture of teams that are coming to your event. And then another third of the fan base is local, is coming from sort of the surrounding community because for many different reasons. But what I like to look at it as looking at it a little bit differently. It's not just what fan is coming from where, but really it has a little bit more to do with kind of just who those people are. And so I broke it down a little bit differently to your super fans. They're the people who are really dedicated to their team. They're going to travel anywhere. They're going to follow them anywhere, and they're coming because they want to see their team win. These tend to be close friends, groups of friends who are traveling very far. So, you know, we're kind of assuming that this is the greatest distance of people, and they're mostly adults. Of course, families travel all over the place, but there's just a higher likelihood of people being able to travel from far away if it's just groups of friends. Then you have your loyalists. You have the people who maybe aren't necessarily coming because of the teams that are coming, but they're coming actually because they're loyal to the event itself. The College World Series is happening in Omaha, Nebraska, which is where we are based right now. And there are many people that we know of that go to the game not because of the teams that are there, but because they love the event itself. The College World Series is, you know, just a week-long blast. It's a really, really great time. But generally, your loyalists are going to be people who aren't maybe flying from clear across the world, but they're coming from a driving distance, a few hours away. And that's where you're going to get a larger percentage of your families, people who are planning on coming to this event because it's a part of their vacation. Then you have your casual attendees. The casual attendees are, think of them as the people who are a little bit more local to the surrounding area, you know, people who can drive down at any time and experience a little bit of the action. So those are kind of where a lot more of your single individuals are coming in. They're your locals. They're the people who don't have a real commitment to being at that particular event, but it may just happen to be the best thing that's happening that week, and so they're planning on doing it because it's a good time. So a huge cross-section of these fans are going to use their favorite way to start to establish a way to get a game plan. They want to create an itinerary so that they can really understand what they're going to do for this event. And it doesn't really matter if you're a super fan or a casual attendee, people are going to look for certain kinds of information so that they can get a picture of what their day is going to look like or what their week's going to look like. So they're going to look for things like, is there an app that has to do with this event? What are my travel options? What are my lodging options? What sort of schedules can I find having to do with the event itself, and maybe local attractions that are happening around there? What kind of foods can I eat? What's happening with these other teams? You know, I have to know my competition so that I can really talk about my team a little bit better. And then they're looking at maps and really kind of getting a lay of the land. And then they're reviewing statistics, they're doing the research on their team, and then they're getting their tickets. And all of these things can be facilitated through mobile apps. So taking this customer journey and looking at the demographics, what we want to do now is kind of map things out, like see what these people are doing in the middle of their day. So we have our 3 demographics laid out, and we want to kind of create a path for them. And the start is to see where they're traveling. You know, so think about these people who are coming from farther away. They're usually not coming the day of; they're coming a day or two early. They are what they're going to be doing in the days preceding. What are they going to be visiting? What are they going to be eating? And then during the game, or during game day, that is. So what are they doing leading up to the game? What sort of events are there? Then there's the event itself. And when I say game, I actually mean event. This could be a multi-day experience, much like the College World Series. And then there's also after it, what happens post-game. So if we look at this is just a really basic map of this. If we look at the percentage of time and focus that people are actually spending at a game itself relative to the rest of the opportunities, there's some interesting opportunities for you to engage fans in many different levels. And so with the ultimate goal of making an experience personal and facilitating information for the customer, what we want to do is look at your content and your experience. And doing that, or doing a content and experience audit is kind of the way of getting a lay of the land. Part of the point of having a mobile app is so that you can provide a specific function. You can cut through the noise and really talk to that person, that user, on an individual basis. So it's a good idea to start by cutting out some of your own noise. And by performing a content audit, you're understanding what content is being created, by whom. You're talking to the people on your team that actually execute things like your marketing strategy, and you get an overview of all of the assets and how they engage with your fans. Then you determine what's being measured, what's being performed best, and then really committing to clearing out the rest of the stuff so that you can make room for a mobile plan alongside that. So when you know what works and what doesn't, you can focus your team on making new things as far as what matters. And I don't mean new things like new content. It's really just applying it in a new way to a mobile strategy. So finding where you can reinvest some of these resources and giving your online and mobile strategy a nice little boost. You can have a good picture of where your content is coming from and who's seeing it, and it'll give you a clear picture of how to go forward. The other side of the coin of this audit is the experience audit. When you change and adapt your business with the overall experience of your brand in mind, you're making a smarter decision for your business. To give you some context of how much customer experience has grown in the last 10 years. 10 years ago, the phrase customer experience manager didn't even register on Google Trends. But Gartner predicts that by 2017, 50% of consumer product investment will be redirected to customer experience innovation. One of customer experience managers' biggest tools is the mobile device. So customer experience managers try to understand who is experiencing your brand and how. So I often like to say that a company's brand identity is defined by all of the interactions that people have with a company. It's not just the consumers of the product or the fans. but it's the vendors that you work with. It's the approach that your salespeople take when they're having meetings. And it's how your own employees talk about your company outside of work. So think about how those interactions affect the content you deliver and the overall experience of your event. It's the same as your content when you're doing the audit on your content. What if those interactions can be measured? What are the best things about your experience, about the experience of your brand? And then what works, what doesn't, and get rid of the things that don't work. That way you'll be able to focus on what's going to make that better experience. Then you be careful about the content that you're giving out. The act, because of what a brand really is, because it's the overall experience of everything that everybody's seeing, the delivery of your content and the delivery of what your product is really a company-wide endeavor. And so it's important to get everybody involved so that they're all on the same page and they're understanding this new piece of a strategy, which is mobile. So we've laid out the journey, and we've done an audit on the experience in our content, and now we want to take some of that idea and map it to that journey so we can see where some of the best potential interaction points are for our fans. Where you are thinking about the things that you want to be able to provide for your fans. So remember, we want to kind of cover all of our bases by showing things like travel options and lodging for coming to your event, what there is to do besides your event, and provide really rich schedules and maps and statistics and things that people can kind of look at that may seem like static content. Apps can be more than static content, and so they can act as communication platforms. And so if you're anticipating the things that you need to provide, you can customize them. You can make them be a little bit more personalized, even if it is static content. Tournaments and bowl games are really interesting challenges because they're sort of time-boxed pieces. They're time-boxed events, and so you don't have a very long time to understand what everything is going on. And so you can make the provisions seem more customized by just asking simple questions. And you can, mobile devices have a kind of memory to them. They can have their own identity. And so a phone doesn't need to know a person's very personal information in order to remember personal preferences. So an app can reach outside itself. Like we said, it can take advantage of all of the additional functionality here, and be able to provide a richer experience with some of the static content. So we see here that 75% of consumers are willing to share at least one piece of information about themselves in order to improve the recommendations they see. Meaning you can ask them things like, what team are you rooting for? Or you can provide people settings to be able to tell the app that you're at a particular event with your family, and that includes small children, and that you'd like to explore the city. So that way the app can filter down this, what could be a very wide variety of information based on the context of what people are setting as their preferences. And that way they can have a more enjoyable and seemingly personalized experience. So we're looking at this now with an overlay of those provisions. We're adding some personalization along the path now by thinking about these provisions. And it also shows how we can grow some of the possibilities that are in front of us so that we can get fans more involved and really engage them where they are and really start to understand it. And so by providing maps, we are giving them the opportunity to see that there's more lodging very close to the event, and people can make decisions based on that, and not just what a hotel website is telling them that they can experience. But you can actually intervene here and say that these particular lodgings are most ideal. Our fans prefer being at this place. You can increase what their preferences are based on whether they're coming with families, so that you can direct them to art museums or to zoos, or show them where some of the best restaurants are. And giving a nice rich itinerary can show people that there is more than just tailgating beforehand, but like maybe they didn't know that there was going to be a sports clinic happening before the game, or that there was a team signing happening. And then, of course, there's the event itself, which is a very narrowed focus, but also there's the consideration of the follow-up that's happening afterwards. What are people doing right after the game, and even the next day? So experience apps are often going to provide that way for you to talk to people and use it as a communication platform. And so by taking some of these new opportunities, by growing this customer journey a little bit, it's important to start to think about, okay, when am I going to actually talk to my fans about some of these opportunities? So I have an app that is showing them some of these opportunities for travel and lodging and maps and all of the fun things to do before and after the event. But how do you actually talk to them? Many apps are able to provide notifications, and notifications are a really powerful tool if they're done correctly. They're not just providing live statistics, but they're also driving people at a very opportune time. And so if you can talk to customers when they need the kind of information that they're looking for, you're making that experience personal, and you're making your app a great experience for them. And so you can take your promotions and drive certain people in your demographics to certain lodgings. You can bring some casual attendees who may or may not be attending your event that day. You can bring them down to your event by offering them a particular promotion that to a restaurant that's right by. You can start to drive your fans in the days previous to all of the local attractions. The superfan may be going to the museum, and the loyalist may be going to the zoo with their family beforehand. Then adding, combining promotions with notifications, you can start to drive people not only using promotions or messages, but you can create combinations of the two. So you're not just giving them deals, but you're also telling them where they need to be at what time. Because tournaments and bowl games are such a time box experience, being able to create a timely interaction with people is going to give you the greatest experience for everybody. And so making sure that if people are at a different event, you can drive them closer and closer to the event when it's coming time. And then finally, being able to actually bring them right into the game. Say, hey, the game is happening in an hour. Sometimes those kinds of timely events seem obvious. They seem like table stakes, but an app telling you, hey, the game is going to start in an hour, you better get down here, is a really useful thing, especially for people who are distracted at really fun events or outside tailgating and may not even realize what's going on. So if your audience is more entertained, they're more receptive to your event. The idea of sending somebody to a zoo doesn't necessarily mean that it has anything to do with your strategy, but even if they're not one of your promotional partners, the zoo is a part of the event because you drove that person to the event as a recommendation. And so people are going to associate that good time that they had at the zoo with the overall extended experience of your event. And so you are essentially kind of taking ownership of all of these outside opportunities that are there. The interesting thing here also is that the more that you see opportunity outside of your particular event, the more you can really see what your demographic is interested in, where they're actually going. Again, you can see mobile app usage regardless of their location, because they're using your app. And so you can start to use that in analytics to be able to follow where people are when they're actually using your application. And you can take advantage of some of that information. So here now we're looking at what some of the categories of that information are. These are really common mobile app metrics that people look at in order to understand just general ideas of how people are using their apps. So we're looking at things like number of downloads, what pages are they visiting, and how long they are spending on your app in particular, and also when they're using it. So doing what was mentioned earlier, being able to understand when to send out messages and when to send out promotions takes a lot of practice. And so the best way to get there is to follow the information in these app metrics. And mobile app devices can provide a really, really rich set of data. You just really need to know how to look through it. And the metrics and analytics are going to give you the most concrete way to get a good picture of what your return of investment is on getting an app. And so you can get insights from your customer. You're going to learn the larger trends about your fans. You can look at the content, how people are actually consuming that information, how long they're spending on certain kinds of information, how much data is actually kind of going through your pipeline. And then also you can get insights into your company and refine your internal strategy based on that. So you can see things like the locations of where apps were downloaded, as I mentioned. So you can see where your fan base is coming from before they visit your event. You can see the location of devices as they're being used and when throughout the day. You can track the number of impressions versus actions that people are taking on particular promotions that you're sending out, whether or not they're responding to notifications that you've sent out. And you can get a clear picture of what ads are being used and how they're being received. And so you can go back later to a promotional partner and get more dollars the next year with hard data on what the fans are going to see and when they're going to do it, because you have metrics behind it. And then really, because all of these metrics that you see are created by the customer in the act of using the app, all of them are relevant to refining your internal strategy. There are hundreds of different kinds of metrics, and really there's endless ways of combining them to get a relevant pattern of useful data that you can take advantage of. So it's important to start simple and look at combinations of data that is going to make the most sense to your potential ROI. And when you get really good at it, this can be part of a routine. The content and the experience auditing that we mentioned earlier becomes something that really naturally happens because of the process that you do just by looking at analytics on a normal time. And that's part of what we do when we make a product from now on. We not only create the thing that creates the metrics, but we look at the metrics constantly, and we help people understand what they are. So I want to finish up with a really beautiful little graphic here that is a piece of analytics that is from one of our own clients. This is a look at just one example of the analytics and the research that we do by combining certain metrics together, like when people are using the app and what is happening during the day. And so this is a combination of Android, which is in pink, and iOS users. So the bars are essentially just total users in general throughout the day. What we're seeing here is one of our clients' game days during a really big rivalry. And this is the kind of culmination. This is the last graph that we've seen after going through and analyzing a bunch of different previous game data and seeing some really interesting opportunities. So as I said, this is kind of a recording of that final game day. And so early on, our recommendation was to send out a notification saying, like, hey, the big game's here. Don't forget your tickets. And then later on in the day, when there's a spike, again, we had them send out a notification with a promotion attached to it with ticket deals. And as we're walking through the day, early on in the game, you want to make sure that everybody is there and they're wearing the right stuff. And so giving a merchandise offer is going to drive them down to the stadium. And people are going to buy T-shirts, and they're kind of like wearing their gear before they actually get the game going. And then when you see that, that big chunk of the spike, that's actually the game itself. And so people are in the app. They're looking at the usage. They're really kind of following all the data and the stats. They're looking for concessions, et cetera. And then there was a final notification down at the end to kind of give that recap, that final score. But an interesting thing that we noticed in analyzing all of the data previous to this day was that we saw that people were revisiting the app about 90 minutes after the game was over. And so people were leaving the stadium, they were going home, they were going to bars and restaurants, and they were opening the app back up, and they were talking about that game and kind of reliving what was going on and checking everything out. And so we recommended during that time, or a little bit after that time, to curate that content and take some of that, take some of what you're going to be providing them later, which is a recap of the game, some highlights, some important stats, by packaging that up and sending it out as quickly as you can so that it hits that 90-minute window, you're going to see another spike. And so that last spike that you see underneath the highlights was a spike that didn't exist previous to this. And so, you're kind of creating that customized mobile engagement. So that's what we do here. We not only create things, but we want to make sure that you guys are as informed as possible to know what the power of mobile applications are and to understand what some of the potential is. We've got, right at 15 minutes. So if anybody is interested in asking questions, go ahead and start asking those now through the chat. And if there is any more that you want to learn from this, here's some of our information. You can visit our website. You can follow us. But if you have some really specific questions about the products and services we have, you can contact Josh White. He's our business development director, and he'll be happy to set up a demo, talk you through any kind of questions, and just make sure that your needs are met. Riley, are there any questions that we have so far that we need to cover?
Let's see. I did get just a couple questions through the chat, and if anybody does have any questions, feel free to go and type those in right now. So the first question we had was, lots of bowl games and tournament organizers, are working with a limited budget or limited resources. What are some ways that they can, I guess, stretch those resources further and still be able to achieve personalized experience or be able to pull off a mobile app, with those limited resources?
Sure. So going through that overall digital strategy, you mentioned the audit. That may not be something that is really easy to do. In fact, it can be a pretty massive task. And so, but really the point of talking about the audit is to show some of the efficiencies that can be gained, and how to maybe redirect some of those resources. But that may not even be an effort that somebody is able, or an organization is able, to undertake. We know that some of these huge events are put on by just a few people leading up to the event. Sometimes you only have 2-3 people who are really managing all of this content. And so the important point to take away from there is that having a mobile app doesn't need to be a lot of work. You don't need to create a lot of unique content for a mobile app. What it's really doing is taking the things that you already do and do well and turning it into another way to talk to your fans and engage them at the right time. And so really it's just kind of seeing what your promotions are, how you wish you could talk to your fans, and just seeing that there's the opportunity to be able to speak to your fans right there. And so it really doesn't require a whole lot of extra work. In fact, once the content is in place in an app, as we said, people are going to go and seek that out. And if you have the right kinds of settings and everything, you can make a personal experience work with very static content because they feel like it's being filtered down and personalized for them.
Awesome. Thanks, Stephan. So we've got a couple more here. One person was wondering how did we come up with the research that you shared here in the first half of your presentation?
Oh, you bet. Thank you. So Riley actually helped out quite a bit with that. He is our implementation expert, and so he helps schools and organizations understand what their plan is. But our really big resources here were Adobe Analytics. Adobe is one of the biggest and most successful analytics companies. Everybody always hears about Google Analytics, but Google Analytics is it's the most pervasive of the analytics services, but Google Analytics has been rated by Forrester as the best analytics company to go with because they're so thorough, their user experience is great, and their tools are just off the chart awesome. And they actually help people understand their data in a more relevant way. So, when you saw just some of those few basic categories of analytics, they take the tools that they provide people and make it so that you don't have to come up with your own combinations of these data. They're sort of like preset categories so that you can really see like easy pictures. So Adobe Analytics is a really great resource for that, and they have tons and tons of reports where they reference Forrester's research, and they also reference, a whole slew of your big data gathering. Our Gallup is another place where you look at polling information. Google Analytics is also a really great resource. The Google Now or their Google Business Practices is a really great place to go and look at any kind of business statistics, but the sports statistics that they have is really, really robust.
Great. So we got one more here. So in reference to I believe the content audit, do you have any suggestions for how people can convince colleagues or management, one of the need for an audit, and two, to get everyone involved, like you were saying?
Yeah, you bet. So that's a really huge challenge. I've had to actually do that a few times in my career as well, and it's not easy because it kind of goes along with the idea of the limited resources. It's really hard to justify going through extra work in order to see what may or may not be, a way to save money or to make money. And so the argument that I usually have, generally it's a little bit more, it can get pretty technical because I have a very deep technical background of like why you should want a mobile application or why you should do a content audit. But a good thing to start off with is just being able to get some of the simple numbers and present the opportunity. And so you're working backwards from showing all of the opportunities to be able to talk to your fans and what the best kind of information you can provide them in a mobile app or any kind of strategy, really. If you're really any kind of marketing strategy is going and talking to your fans. But working backwards to look at what are some of these new opportunities, and then going back to say, if we really knew what we had or what is working for us, if we were able to look at some of the analytics here and see some of the numbers and actually understand when people are taking action on some promotions that we're sending out, or how many people are really seeing a commercial that we just sent, or how many people missed this concession stand or this merchandise kiosk? Like, what if they knew that they were there? Understanding like real specifics of that cause and effect of being able to talk to somebody and then see a reaction from them is a really great argument. But without having that data, it's hard to say, hey, I know for sure that we're doing the best that we possibly can. And so, really it kind of comes down to how proactive your manager, the person who's making the decisions, is feeling, and whether or not they want to be relevant a few years from now when people have that marketing strategy already in place in your mobile world, and they're able to talk to people in a really specific way. And another thing that I think is important mentioning is that our company was created and founded on what a customer experience should be and what a game day should really be like. A game day is memorable not because you went there and your team won. A really great game day is there because you had an awesome time from when you woke up and you met up with your friends and you started to go out and do your day, and you had a very smooth transition all the way to the game. You had a wonderful time there and you celebrated afterwards. And so having that broader experience is really huge. And so to care about what that fan experience is, to really care about all of the parts of the fan experience, it had a lot to do with the argument of why we should even create these kinds of products, why we should even start our company, is to take the technology and take the things that people are moving to and finding more relevant and spending all of their time in, and kind of getting ahead of the game and making sure that we're creating things that people are using and want to use, and creating ways for people to be able to talk to each other to have that richer experience. So the short answer to that is understand what is going to be able to give your fans the best kind of experience, and start there with your argument, and take the best possible scenario. What if we knew this information, and try to lay that out into a way that's going to justify doing that audit.
That was great, Stephan. I have one final question here. How can mobile apps support brand awareness initiatives? And I guess this is a two-part one. Follow-up to that is, mobile app being kind of a newer-ish, I guess, media. How to sell that inventory to sponsors, and any suggestions or methods you have for going about that.
Okay. Yeah, you bet. I think I get both parts of those questions, the relationship of that. So as far as the brand awareness part goes, what's happening right now in the sports world is the arenas and the organizations, the teams, the schools, all of the places that are taking advantage of this new technology and this new communication platform and really using it in an innovative way. All the things that we just talked about, just really trying to engage fans in a new way and using technology in a unique way. They're getting a huge amount of press. People are really paying attention to them because that organization is going the extra mile to give their fans something that they want and that they need, and that they're already going out and trying to find. And so that's a really huge step in the idea of brand awareness. I know that there are really huge challenges in maybe smaller conferences or bowls that are relatively new to the game, and so they're trying to just make themselves known. And a really big way right now, just in the last year, is to try and take advantage of new technology and use it as as kind of innovative as a way as you can think about, because it's going to make people see that you're really trying to make that particular event special. Then with the second part, as far as being able to talk about inventory and make it so that you're communicating with your promotional partners and kind of reassuring them that your brand is trustworthy, that it's reliable, that it's going to maybe sell more merchandise, or that it's worth the amount of money that you're asking for a sponsorship. I would kind of defer to the first part of the answer, is that if you're really caring about your customer experience, you're going to get that reaction. Two, the kinds of functionality that apps have, and so I'm going to talk a little bit about our product really quickly. We have the ability to show inventory. We have the ability to show availability of merchandise, of all of the different kiosks and things that are happening, not just in the stadium, but around the stadium. And if people see all of the opportunities and where they are on a map and be able to find, oh, hey, there's something right around the corner that I totally would have missed, that's kind of a really important step to understanding that there's even merchandise available, that there's that transactional opportunity happening. And next is last is that idea of data. And so it's important to actually get that data and have that analytics so that you can come back and talk to those promotional sponsors the next year. And so there is a long-term plan to this. And the biggest part of that long-term plan is being able to say, hey, we did this kind of action last year, and we believe that we can double that with what our understanding is from the last year. I'm running into time. I would want to be respectful of everybody's time. Thank you guys so much for spending this hour with us. We really appreciate you listening. Again, if there's any questions that you have, please feel free to reach out to us. But thank you guys so much. Good luck with your events. Good luck with your conferences and your bowl games and your tournaments. Make the best experience possible that you can for your fans. It's really important. Thank you guys. Have a great week.
Thanks, everybody. And just as a reminder, we will follow up with you after this session today, and we'll distribute the recording of this session. If you're interested and you do want more information about our company and what we do, you can visit us at www.fnoex.com/fanx, and I'll go ahead and put that link in the chat for you as well. You can also follow us on Twitter, and like Stephan mentioned, if you're interested in hearing more specifically about what we do, or perhaps getting a consultation of some type about your mobile strategy, please feel free to reach out to our Director of Business Development, Josh White, jwhite@fnoex.com, and he'd be happy to set some time up. So I hope everybody enjoyed this today, and enjoy the rest of your afternoons. Thank you.